Bam! Was that on camera? Look at that, dude. You ever heard of the phrase? Caught on tape! In all reality, the first thing you need to do when someone gives you an objection is identify and isolate it to make sure it's real. Because if it's not real, you can't close it. Too many people get an objection, they assume it's real, they start to try and close it, and it doesn't work. The customer leaves because timing's a lot to do with it. So like, you don't want to spend 20 minutes arguing about something that's not even real. So the first thing you do is identify and isolate it to make sure it's the real one. Now, do you know how to do that?
No.
Anybody? You simply provide what I call a hypothetical solution. A hypothetical solution. And the fact that it's hypothetical means that you have unlimited power. So give me any objection.
It's too expensive.
Okay, so now I'm gonna hypothetically remove that objection. So if it were the right price, you'd buy it?
Yes.
Okay, so I just got him to continue by identifying, isolating. Now, give me more objections. Ready? If I could make that cheap enough, would you take it home with you?
Quite possibly, but I have to ask the wife.
Okay, then that means that's not fucking real. Okay? It's not real. I tried to identify and isolate it by providing a hypothetical solution to remove this thing, and you didn't say yes and continue, which means that's not the only one, or it's not the real one. Move it aside. Quit talking about price. Well, what else would be stopping you?
I'm just not in the market to buy right now.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, and obviously, dude, that makes sense. You wouldn't buy something you're not in the market for. But if you were in the market for it, would this be the one you'd buy?
I think we worked on the price a little bit, possibly.
See? Now you just jump back to price. So you got to identify and isolate the objection before you freaking try and handle it. You don't handle a false objection, a smokescreen. So until the person says yes, that's step one. You identify and isolate. Make sense? And then step two is you now have to handle the objection. Now you just made a hypothetical what? Solution to the problem. A hypothetical solution was, what if I made it affordable? That's hypothetical. Okay, so, and it solved it. You said, yeah, you'd move forward. Okay, well, folks, between you and me, I don't really care if you bought that for what I paid for it, quite frankly, but management here obviously gets to decide. So now we're moving into negotiation. See, there's no longer an objection. You just got past it. Now, let's, and again, if you go another direction, that's because this isn't real or it's not the only one. So now that you've solved it and you found it and you get a yes, step two on handling the objection is now you solve the problem using logic. Logic is an acronym for you leverage obvious gain, right? You use intelligence and common sense. So like, for example, it's too expensive. My wife's not here. What's another one? Can't afford it. What's another one? What are the objections everybody uses? They're all the same. They're all the same, aren't they? Think about it. Oh, you have to think about it.
What makes you special?
That's a question. That's not an objection. An objection is I'm not moving forward, and I say why? Why aren't you moving forward? Don't need it, don't want it, don't like your product. Some of those guys, move on to your next customer. Don't sit there and scream and fight and beg people to buy your shit. Sell some shit you're proud of, okay? Next thing you know, boom, let's do business. You don't want to. Why? You say, because it's too much. Well, you have to test it, make sure it's real, and you say, well, if I could make this cheap, would you buy it? And he said, yes. Okay, so I solved that objection. He's ready to move forward. Now we can move into negotiation, but to close this deal, let's say I can't make it cheap. So now I come over here, and that's why you have to be careful with your hypothetical solutions. Because when you use some way out stupid, no-brainer, then it's harder to solve the problem. Because step two is solving the problem. So like if my wife's not here. Okay, so let's pretend your wife's not here, and I said, well, if she was here and she told you to pull the trigger, would you move forward?
If we can do an agreement on the price.
Yeah, so no, pretend it ain't about that. Your only objection is you got to get the wife. And I said to you, well, I'm gonna solve it with a hypothetical so I can test it. You got to get the wife? Well, if she was here and she told you to do it, would you move forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So I removed the objection, and now I got to solve the problem. What's the problem? What's the problem? No.
The wife.
What's the problem? So solve it with logic. Leverage obvious gain, intelligence, common sense. What's one way? Let's just come out with a little brainstorm session. I'll bet you we come up with 10. What's one way to solve the problem that the wife's not there?
Get her on FaceTime.
Where's another one? What's another one? Huh?
Send her a picture.
What's another one? Like, we can just keep going. Go get her. Okay? Like, send a limo for her. Like, how big's the deal? The wife's not here is the problem. He said if she was here and told her to move forward, would you do it? He said yes. That means the wife's not here is real. So you got to solve that fucking problem. The wife's not here. Okay, let's go get her. I can't. Let's go do this. She's in the hospital. Whatever the reasons are, you may not close the deal or handle the objection all the way to fruition, because all deals are not closable. But to have the skill to understand that that's the real one or not is doubly powerful. As soon as you know that it's real, now you just use intelligence and common sense to try to solve this problem based on the hypothetical, if you're smart. So, I mean, I've closed a bunch of them. I closed one right here where I said, dude, if it was free, would you do it? He said, yeah. And I said, well, then fucking somewhere in between free and what I'm asking, we got a deal. He's like, you closing me right now? Yeah, buddy, that's what I'm doing. So I just went, if it was free, would you do it? Yes. Oh, okay. Then we got a deal. Same thing, same concept. That's how you handle an objection. You identify and isolate it, then you solve it with intelligence and common sense, and you leverage obvious gain, the obvious gain of the product or service to benefit what you found out during your gathering intel phase. What you found out, you use that and you leverage that into the close as well. And then you solve that problem. Like, I've done it a million times. Like, it's too much money. Well, if I could make it cheaper, would you buy it? They're like, yeah, if it was cheaper, I'd buy it. Well, let's go in and see how cheap I can get it. Then I get down and I'm like, well, what are your payments? And then next thing you know, I'm like, dude, $700 a month, you can afford that? That I can sell it to you for $18,000. Your payment's $697. You can swing that. All right, yeah, you're right. So you leverage the obvious gain of the product or service to their benefit while you're using intelligence and common sense, solving the problem that you hypothetically removed. That's it. Simple.